Imagine waking up and you're already in a Mario Kart race. Except you didn't pick your kart, you didn't pick your character, and you didn't even get to see the countdown. You just spawn in, dead last. Everyone else already halfway around the track. Some people are drifting perfectly through every corner, while some have golden mushrooms, and some have karts you have never seen before. And then there's you. You're in the back, in a stock cart, trying to remember which button is to drift. That is what life has felt like to me for a long time. Like I arrived late to a race that everyone else understood. The stupid part is that a kid's racing game on a Nintendo console is what helped me make sense of that feeling. And for me, that game was Mario Kart. Now mind you, I didn't grow up with a wall of games or a gaming PC that glowed like a spaceship. We simply just had one TV in the living room, one GameCube, one Game Boy Advance SP, and whatever game my parents could afford at the time. Mind you, they were always paycheck to paycheck. But somewhere down the line, Mario Kart became the default. If the console was turned on, it was either that or nothing. Or maybe Super Smash Bros. But we lived in a tiny apartment. My mom was usually in the kitchen, moving between pots and pans. My dad pretended he didn't care about games, but he slowly drifted closer to the couch whenever he heard the start jingle in Mario Kart. And my sister and I would always argue over the good controller, the one that did not randomly disconnect or drift left for no reason. Back then it was simple. It didn't feel like content or anything. There was no camera, there was no stream. It was just us and the living room. And with the TV quality so garbage, the audio crackled if you turned it too high. But when the race started, all of that disappeared. You know that feeling when 4 people all lean their bodies with the cart? Like that actually does something. My family did that every race. And when I think about those nights, what stands out is how little I cared about winning. I cared about picking my character fast enough before my sister stole it. I cared about not coming last so my dad could not roast me. I cared about the chaos of red shells, green shells bouncing off the walls, and the pure stupidity of someone flying off Rainbow Road for the 3rd time in one lap. We didn't talk about money, we didn't talk about school stress, we did not talk about how tight things were that month. For a few races, all the hard stuff moved to the background, like the blurred crowd in the stands. And it took me a long time to realize that Mario Kart was the only place where my family could be in the same room and not feel heavy. Just 4 people on a couch, taking turns getting destroyed by blue shells. Now, fast forward a decade, more than a decade, it's the same series, but a very different atmosphere. I'm older, there's online now, there's a ranking system, and suddenly everything feels serious. I queue into lobbies, and now it's not my dad or my sister. It's random Japanese players that go through perfect lines through every track. I feel my jaw clench every time someone passes me on the last corner, and I easily rage quit after a bad streak. I just sit there in silence, staring at the "You placed 9th" screen, like it is the verdict on my life. Somewhere along the way, Mario Kart stopped feeling like a living room and started feeling like social media. Other people were not just players. They became proof that I was behind. Behind in skill, behind in life, behind in everything. It sounds a bit dramatic, but that mindset leaks out. You close the game, open Instagram or YouTube, and the race just continues, but in a different font. Views, money, body, relationships. There is always someone in a faster kart on a better track. When I think back to Mario Kart and what it did, weirdly enough, it gave me a safe little simulation of what it feels like to live like that all the time. And once I saw it in the game, I couldn't unsee it in real life. The first thing Mario Kart taught me is that races are never fair. You do not choose where you start. You don't get to decide who your parents are, how much money is in the bank account, what country you're born in, or whether your family can buy new games or scrape enough together for a secondhand console. In Mario Kart, some people literally start in the front row. Better karts, better wheels, more experience, better lines. Some of us spawn in the back and spend half the race just trying not to spin out on the first corner. Growing up, I remember going to other kids' houses and seeing shelves full of games, multiple consoles, having an Xbox and a PlayStation, and the good TV, the flat screen kind. And a room that was just for playing, not the same room used for eating and homework and everything else. I would go back home to our small place, our single console, our one game that everybody knew inside out. As a kid, it felt unfair. They had everything. And we had Mario Kart, but a lot of imagination. Only later did I realize that I picked up skills in the back row that you couldn't buy in the front. Stuff like sharing that taught me patience, even when I hated it. Waiting for my turn taught me to enjoy watching other people play, not just for myself. And having less made me squeeze every drop of joy out of what I did have. None of that changes the fact that the race is unfair though. It just means the scoreboard is not the whole story. Mario Kart showed me how being behind gives you different tools. When you're in last place, the game starts to feel bad for you. Suddenly, the item boxes are kind. Stars, bullet bills, triple mushrooms. The game hands you things that the people in first never see. But real life is not as generous as Nintendo. But there is a similar pattern. Being behind forces you to build habits that people in the front never need. You learn how to be creative with money. You learn how to fix broken stuff instead of buying new. You learn how to entertain yourself with what is already around you. For my family, that meant a lot of nights in, cheap food, board games that had missing pieces, and a GameCube that did not always cooperate. At the time, it felt limiting, but looking back, those are the memories I liked the most. The cramped living room, the noise, the way my sister and I would invent stupid minigames inside Mario Kart itself, like only picking certain tracks or using certain items. That was our version of triple mushrooms. Sure, it wasn't glamorous, but it got us through some rough laps. The game made me think about how many ways there are to play. Mario Kart had time trials, Grand Prix, battle mode, online races, and overall chaos with friends. As a kid, those modes were just buttons on a menu. But as an adult, they started to feel like different versions of life. Time trials are like people who love perfection, grinding the same track alone, shaving off fractions of a second, resetting every time something feels off. Grand Prix is the more standard path. School, job, promotion, retirement, a set of cups and trophies you're supposed to get through in the right order. And then battle mode is just the chaos crowd. People who live for the weird stuff, the parties, the stories that sound fake. At some point, I caught myself trying to play the Grand Prix in a life that was clearly not built for that route. Trying to act like this neat, straightforward, always progressing character, when in reality, I was juggling content, odd jobs, fluctuating money, and the overall pressure of social media. But in Mario Kart, when I think about it, there are different win conditions, and that not everyone is signed up for the same one. In my living room childhood, winning sometimes meant first place. Other nights, winning just meant my dad get to laugh after a day where he clearly wanted to do anything except laugh. You don't see that in the leaderboard, but it still counts. One big lesson to learn is from the blue shell itself. That horrible item that locks onto first place and ruins the entire race in just one hit. As a kid, the blue shell was comedy, as long as it didn't hit me. As I got older, it started to feel familiar. In life, you could be doing so well and still get hit out of nowhere. Some disaster you didn't cause, someone getting sick, job gone, unexpected bill that wipes out the tiny buffer you finally built. Growing up without much, I watched my parents deal with a lot of blue shells. My mom would come home exhausted and then get hit with another problem, and my dad holding it together for months until something breaks, literally or emotionally, and then he just snaps at everyone. Mario Kart gave me a cartoon version of that experience. You think you're in control, then something you never touch hits you from the sky, and you're spinning on the track while everyone else passes. There's something weirdly comforting about seeing that chaos in a game. It reminds me that getting hit doesn't mean you're useless. It just means the lap is not going to look as clean as you imagined. You respawn, you keep driving, and maybe you don't win the race. Maybe you just finish and turn off the GameCube and eat dinner. Sometimes that's enough. When I boot up Mario Kart now, it feels nothing like it did when I was a kid. The couch is different, the room is different, the people in the room are older, but the game has this way of dragging my brain back to those nights where 4 people with not much money and a lot of stress somehow made a tiny living room feel like a stadium. I don't remember my win rate. I don't remember the best times. I don't remember which cups I cleared first. I just remembered my sister yelling whenever I sniped her with a green shell. I just remember my dad pretending he didn't care, then leaning forward on the last lap. I remember my mom drying her hands on a towel, sitting down for one race, and then refusing to stop until she beat us at least once. Mario Kart helped me realize that a lot of the stuff I obsess over now is just pixels. The numbers, the rankings, the comparisons. They feel so real until you turn the game console off, and all that's left is the feeling of the session. That's what life feels like to me now. A bunch of races, some wins, a lot of losses, and a handful of nights on an old couch that somehow matter more than any trophy. If there is anything I took from that little disc in our one console, it's this. You don't control where you start. You don't control every item that hits you. But you can choose how you drive with what you have, and you can choose who sits on that couch with you while you figure it out. For me, that has already made the race worth it.